Hey nerds, we are talking about She-Hulk episodes 7, 8, and 9, the finale. We are going to review the episodes and then get into a breakdown of the episodes starting now. Welcome to Nerd Social. I am Nathan.
And I'm Colin.
Hey, so we are a few weeks behind, mostly because I've been on paternity leave. I'm technically still on paternity leave. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the last 3 episodes of She-Hulk generally, and then we're going to break them down a little bit, and then basically mostly talk about the finale. So I mean, I guess I can start since Colin did most of the work for this stream tonight. So I think generally the last couple of weeks the episodes have gotten better and better. Like episode 7 might have been my favorite episode, even though Daredevil showed up in episode 8, because it was a self-contained episode, and it actually dealt with Jen's issues and it seemed like a very healthy, productive, like cordoned off way. I guess it would be spoilers to get into how that's resolved at the end of the episode, end of the season. But I really appreciated that episode. I thought it was really strong. It was completely a different kind of episode than the episodes before, like that had kind of a split plot, an A and B plot. There wasn't a plot at the law firm. It was mostly the episode mostly is on Abomination, Emil Blonsky's ranch. The the 8th episode, and I guess we could actually talk about these without actually spoiling, because like every episode sort of jumps around. So Daredevil shows up in the 8th episode. It's another really strong episode. I think it gives everyone who's reasonable everything that they wanted out of a Daredevil, appearance in She-Hulk. And then episode 9, the finale is definitely an interesting finale. Definitely the most wild finale that Marvel has done so far, and it's difficult. It's impossible to talk about the finale without spoiling it. But it's a really it's a really creative finale. But it also works very well for this character, given what this character's history in the comics, but also this character's established history in just in this show. Right. So it works well for this character, and it's funny. I think I can see some people having issues with it, but like I had to rewatch the episode a couple times, and also I read the companion comic book that is hinted at in the middle of this episode, as they in every episode they have a QR code for a comic book, and I specifically actually read that comic book today, because I hadn't read it before. I've read She-Hulk issues before, but I hadn't read that one. So with all that context, I like what they did, and it was really, I don't know about brave, but it was it was very funny what they did, yeah. Without saying, if I allude to anything else, I'm going to spoil what they did in episode 9. At this point, like we're 3 weeks behind to episode 7. So if you were just waiting for it to end, maybe that's why you're watching this. In which case, I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, I like the season overall. I think it's probably one of the best seasons, and I'm not saying that because it's perfect, because it's not. It's very uneven at a lot of different places, but I feel like this show has the most, like, one of the most rewatchability factors of any other show that Marvel has done. I'm not going to go back and rewatch Falcon the Winter Soldier. I'm not going to go back and rewatch. I can go back and rewatch maybe individual episodes of What If. I'm not going to go back and rewatch most of WandaVision, but I could see me rewatching a lot of these episodes, even though a lot of them were uneven. I mean, even when they were airing, I watched them a couple times because they were funny to me, and I understand, humor is subjective, and a lot of this wasn't funny for some other people, but it was funny for me, for the most part. Like I said, it was the show was uneven in places. So yeah, I like the last few weeks, and I actually like where they landed, because it was definitely not where I thought they were going to land. So yeah,
Right. Right. I think that for me, it's definitely, like you said, Nathan. Well, first of all, congratulations. Really
thanks.
congratulations for heartfelt congratulations there. But at the same time, I think that you're right. Is that they got better as the episodes went along, and yeah, there was definitely some unevenness. For me personally, looking through it, definitely laugh out loud some moments, and as we got and I think that in the seventh episode, which was your favorite, Nathan, it really hit home a lot of different types of issues in revolving around relationships. It is hard to date, during 2022. And, modern dating is very, very difficult. Kind of a lot of different things that could happen in that type of situation. So, having those type of feelings going through Jen is definitely relatable to some people. May not be relatable to others, but relatable to some people. And even the whole idea of the hulking, idea, the intelligentsia is definitely something that's really hits in real life a lot of times. But also you have those type of serious issues, kind of social commentary issues, but you also had the lighthearted moments like the return of Daredevil, which was really, really great. Return of Matt Murdock, and having that type of interaction, we cheered for her. We totally just cheered for her character and really rooted for her and supported her. She was kind of down in the dumps, in the retreat episode, and then she finds this great, great guy, and it was great. It was we can get into it later on. And then, the ninth episode, today's episode was very, very, like you said, Nathan, very creative, but at the same time, it was totally, totally unexpected. And we can get into why that is, and the beauty of it, or shockingness of it. We can talk about that as well. But yeah, I do tend to agree that She-Hulk overall has been a very strong set of episodes. I wouldn't rank it as, say, for me, I wouldn't rank it as, the top two. I think that for me, it's still going to be Loki and Miss Marvel. Um, I think that She-Hulk would probably be, a fourth or fifth, but I have to look back at my rankings again. So just to like kind of see where they are. I think that for me, it's like WandaVision was definitely a little lower. Moonlight was definitely a little lower, but I would probably put She-Hulk maybe 3 or maybe 4. But again, I have to look at it again to,
Yeah.
to kind of figure that part out.
And at some point, we're probably in the next week or so, we're probably going to do another conversation with Priya, who was a little busy tonight, just ranking all the MCU shows since they debuted in 2021. I don't
Right.
know, John might join us for that. We'll see. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And this
so
is this yeah. This is also complete Phase 4 as well. These are all, the Disney Plus shows have been all part of Phase 4.
mhm,
And then we have, Wakanda Forever in November, so
to
that's
be
going to wrap
the
up
last
Phase
thing.
4.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's the last thing for Phase 4. So it's going to be very interesting towards the end of the year, where we can kind of take a little bit of a deep reflection on the Marvel properties so
yeah.
far.
So what we'll probably do is, I don't know if we'll rank everything, but we'll probably do is a conversation about ranking the TV shows, and then a conversation about ranking the movies. And if it makes sense, maybe doing a conversation about ranking them all together, like. But I don't know. That might not
Yeah.
make sense. That might be too
Wakanda
long of a
Forever is
conversation.
definitely it's actually the 30th movie, 30th
Yeah,
MCU
yeah,
movie. So
yeah,
it's pretty big to kind of wrap up Phase 4
yeah,
and wrap up kind of like this year, this 10-12 years of the MCU.
yeah. It was yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. We'll be of course reviewing that on the 11th. We didn't, unlike certain things on this channel, we didn't get it. We weren't invited to to the premiere, so we're gonna watch it probably the on the 10th, and we'll review it on the 11th.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, Black Adam at some point we'll review that as well. In the next couple weeks. All right, so do you want to jump into the breakdown, or just talk about specifics?
Yeah, we can talk about some specifics. Again, if you enjoy what we're talking about here, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out in the algorithm and all that. So without further ado, just let's go into spoilers, please.
Okay.
So I think that we can just kind of breeze through episodes 7 and 8, so it doesn't become like a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you either watch the episodes or you haven't. In which case, we don't want to spoil. Yeah. I mean, you should go watch the episodes.
Right.
If you've watched your episodes already, we don't need to recap. Or maybe this will basically be a refresher of what happened in 7. So,
right. Yeah, it kind of starts off pretty cool, with the wedding and stuff, like with the the post wedding, and then she's finding this really, really awesome guy, Josh.
Yeah, the beginning of it is her, I guess, dating him, and she thinking that it's going really great. Josh is a great guy, or Josh is a great guy. She thinks, and they have a great week of courting, and they have sex, and he's not there, and he's not there in the morning. And she starts to freak out. She doesn't freak out immediately. She's like, I thought we were having a good thing, and he just ghosted me, basically. And then by Sunday, she finds herself here at Emil's ranch, because his collar went off. His not his collar. His inhibitor. His inhibitor went off. So yeah, it's an interesting episode, especially how it ends, where it ends and we find out Josh's true colors. I mean, I think when we talked about this during the wedding episode, is like, we don't want Josh to end up to be a bad guy, but I felt like it was obvious that he was going to end up to be a bad guy, unfortunately. And unfortunately, yes, he was a terrible person.
So he had so much promise, though, Nathan. He had so much promise.
Yeah,
we're rooting for her. We're
rooting for her, but also apparently these guys are so desperate that they spent so much time like analyzing her and trying to find out exactly what, how a nice guy would be received by a woman. I feel like, why don't you just do that and date women instead of spending so much time on this website? Why would you just apply all your research and just go and get a date and treat the women like that?
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't get it, and I think that also it's just very weird. But I also felt that when I watched this episode, there were a lot of definitely some social commentary in terms of like how we approach relationships, how we approach therapy, how we kind of talk out our issues in group, that type of thing. And definitely, yes, it did have kind of a Marvel twist with it, with those kind of like D-list superheroes or heroes or something like that. But it was still,
some of them are heroes, some of them are heroes, some of them are villains. But yeah, they definitely had insights because they were dealing with their own stuff. So they were speaking in therapy language, basically. So they helped her deal with her thing. She started to feel very unsure of herself because people, the conversation that they have in group is that people didn't really like her, for herself, and now she's this perfect version of herself, and everyone's saying She-Hulk is so great, and this guy kind of liked Jen, just Jen. I think that's the name of this episode, right? Just Jen.
No, the Just Jen episode was episode 6.
Sorry, what's this? The retreat. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but she makes a callback to that episode title by saying he liked Just Jen.
Correct.
So yeah, and they have really good insight for her. It's like, you know, I feel like it was either Porcupine or Surison who said, if Josh doesn't have time for you, why do you have time for him? Like,
Exactly.
delete his
Delete the number.
delete
Exactly.
his
Yep.
number. Yeah, it's funny that what's his name? Who's the guy who attacked her that she went off on?
Oh, the Wrecking Crew guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I forget what his name is, but like
Yeah.
their original solution was to go and like beat him and beat him up, and he was like, "Come on, guys, are we gonna really? Our only solution we can offer here is
Violence.
violence." And,
Correct.
and you can still see that they're still working through their own things. Because that was their knee jerk reaction, but they also still obviously have been working through and have these tools as well. So with some
Hmm.
reflection and some intervention from him, they actually are able to give her some actually really good advice. That's why I really like this episode. It was really
Yes, absolutely.
well
No,
written.
it's definitely well written, and I think that it's definitely shows, and to be honest, those are all guys. Those are all
Yeah,
men in that room, and
right.
so it's not as though it does give that kind of commentary that yes, they're the toxic types that are kind of like lambasting the show and making all the memes about Daredevil and stuff like. Yes, there are those, but then there are these guys that we didn't really talk about. Like, I think that the internet didn't really talk about. Like, they
No,
were very
because
supportive.
it
They were very,
doesn't fit their narrative, right? Because these
correct.
these guys aren't even like tree huggers. They have,
No,
I
they're
guess,
not.
they have toxic past that they're trying to work through.
Correct.
So this is like an example of a bunch of dudes who want to work on themselves, and you can be this kind
Hmm.
of dude if you want to be, or not. You can go around being an asshole and calling women females and things like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And which
so
we'll get into in the last
in
last
in the last
end of
episode,
episode
yeah,
9. Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, it's
Definitely.
so
Definitely
so
a very good, and I think it definitely speaks a lot, like I said, to how there's a dynamic between kind of it's almost like a life lesson for guys to be like, don't be a-holes. Just, yes, we all have our different types of flaws and personality traits and things like that, but we can always work on ourselves, and that's also true for Jen as well. She's
yeah. I mean,
also
she's not perfect either. She needs to work on
right.
herself, but like, yeah. I mean, the I think that there's all of us, none of us are born in a vacuum. We're all inculcated by by the society that we're born into. So, but it doesn't mean that you can't change
Correct.
or you have no control over your life. So,
Hmm.
if you recognize things that are not working for you, or you think you've convinced yourself are working for you, but it's destroying all your relationships, and you don't have healthy relationships, you don't have fulfilling relationships, maybe do some
Yeah.
introspection. And this is like a
Correct.
human thing, as a human being, regardless of like gender. uh
Hmm.
do some introspection and try to make a change. So yeah, this whole episode, I liked it because it doesn't fit in with the narrative that has been going on online, that this whole show is like misandry, like hating men. No, it's not hating
No,
men. It's hate.
definitely not.
It's commenting on a very specific kind of man who exists in the
Correct.
world. So
And one more thing before we move on to episode 8 is that who would have thought that Abomination, Emil Blonsky, some character, random character that was in the Incredible Hulk, is so introspective and so and just be able to kind of look within himself and not play it, and it's not played as though it's a joke. It's almost like, yes, he's a real human being. He has feelings, and he is also working on himself, and he's
yeah, he's still
trying
working on
to
himself as well, because he's
reinvent
not
himself.
perfect either, as we'll see it
Correct.
in the ninth episode. But he still wants to do the work. He's been in jail a very long time, right? He's been in jail for almost
Hmm.
the entirety of the Marvel universe, which is like 12 years, right? As you
Right.
said, right? So like, Iron Man came out the same year as the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
So Oh, plus the time jump. So more than 12
Mm-hmm.
years, right? Like
Oh yeah,
15,
it's like
15,
yeah,
17 years, 17 years. So
yeah.
he's been in jail for like 17 years. So you have a lot of time to think, right? If you're in jail for
Mm-hmm.
17 years. So yeah, and sometimes if things go well, a lot of people think that that prison is about retribution. It's supposed to be about rehabilitation, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it actually works, and it's about rehabilitation. If that is what the people who are running the prison are interested in. So it seems like he actually tried to rehabilitate himself. Now he's not again 100% because we'll see later
Right.
on he's still driven by like profit motives and stuff like that, and doesn't really think
Yeah.
doesn't think
Questionable profit motive.
doesn't think things some things through. But like he's still
Yeah.
a different guy than he was 17 years
Yes.
ago when he fought the Hulk. So yeah,
Correct.
yeah. I don't know
I
if
think
we'll.
I think
I don't know
we're
if
I
we'll
think
see
we're
any
good
of
in
these
terms
guys
of
again. Any of these.
yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how they're used after they're used again. Like some of these were
Mm-hmm.
like some really like this entire season was a bunch of really obscure characters that you like D or E list characters that you probably would never see again. Like
Yeah.
Porcupine, they really went there with the suit, the Porcupine suit, and then the joke with him,
Yeah.
that like him not being able to take it off, and he takes it off, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's everyone is like, how long have you been in that suit? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then they did at the end of the episode. They did the animation of him taking it to the dry cleaners, and the
yeah,
dry cleaners like, oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which is funny.
yeah.
So
So
we can move on to episode 8 though.
okay,
Yeah. So
so
yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was go ahead.
So episode 8 starts off with this character, another C lister superhero, Leapfrog.
Mm-hmm.
So he tries to, at the beginning of the episode, we see him stopping a couple of goons, and his suit malfunctioned, and he suffers some burns to his legs. So, who are you gonna call when you're a superhero and you got a problem? You're gonna call Jen Walter. So he seeks out Jen to be his attorney, and the problem is that he is actually going after Leapfrog is actually going after Luke Jacobson,
Mm-hmm.
who, by the way, is the person that did Jen's suit,
Mm-hmm.
superhero suit. So it's like, uh-oh, no, oh man, you don't want to burn his bridge because he's actually the one that gave her the suit that can expand and contract and do
Yeah,
superhero
all of her
things in it.
suits are built like that. Like they, like
Yeah,
her business suit as well. Not
right.
just her super suit. So yeah, like she kind of needs him, for
Yeah,
her life
exactly.
to function properly. So
Exactly.
yeah, so yeah,
And then what happened is that they then went she tried to go there, smooth things over, and he's like, no, we're not having this. Like, how are you going to be able to insult me like this? Like, he feels totally offended and insulted. And then we see here in this scene that he is represented by Matt Murdock,
hmm
Daredevil. So we knew that there was going to be some type of relationship there from, I think, was it episode 3 or 4 when he had
it was two. It was two episodes back. So like
okay.
they had the wedding episode and they had to retreat, but the episode before that, we saw because the episode before that was when Nikki and Pug found Mark Jacobson for her. And at the end of the
Yes.
episode, you saw the hat box with his helmet,
Oh
and then
yes, the Avengers.
and then Marvel proceeded to like troll everyone for 2 weeks. It's like, nah, this is going to be a self-contained wedding episode, and then she went out to retreat. But like both of those episodes are good.
Yeah.
Like I know people didn't like the wedding episode, but we did get a fight with Tatiana.
Hmm.
And like were just talking about, the seventh episode was excellent. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and while co-stars are fun, character development is also important. And that the point of those two episodes was some character development, so they could land the place that they wanted to in the ninth episode when we get to the ninth episode. So yeah,
Right. Right. So there was I actually really liked the back and forth in the courtroom between Matt and also
Yeah.
with Jen. I think that was really brilliant. I think that they kind of played it off very well. Kind of like do all the legalese language, the law and order type stuff that people enjoy. So um, and then the verdict coming in as basically, I mean, even before that kind of twist with the wrong type of fuel, and then she found, like Leapfrog did not tell her the full truth about the suit. They found out that he was putting, I think, jet fuel in his suit, right? And
Yeah,
then
exactly. I will
yeah,
say that one of the criticisms that I've heard levied about this show, or about not just the show, not the show, but Jen specifically, is that she's not a good lawyer. I don't know that she's not a good lawyer. I think she's a good lawyer. She's just not a great lawyer, because she has lost before, and she came to the court like unprepared. I feel like if I was going to sue a manufacturer for negligence, I would the first thing I would check is to see if the person who is using the product used it within the parameters that the manufacturer has laid out. And I feel like
yeah,
that's something that
that
she
was
she
a
probably
that
she,
was
she
a
probably should have
big
checked.
miss. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a big misstep on her part, and
yeah,
and
because people
Matt
are people.
definitely was brilliant in his legal defense, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it just I mean, he showed up in her show and just showed her how to be a lawyer, basically. But it's funny. It's funny though. But like in the first episode, they had that very before she not before before she turned into She-Hulk in public.
Hmm.
She was. It seemed like the argument that she was saying to the camera about, what is people's what are people's responsibility when they have power. That whole speech just set her up as a good lawyer, and then
Right.
from then,
Right. That's true.
after she had to turn into She-Hulk in public, she seems like she's been on like shaky ground trying to find her way until like the end of the season, where she seems to be very confident at I mean, when we get to it, we'll talk about it. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
season when she's
Yeah.
on the steps. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like she's been. No one is supposed to be like 100%, but like she is. It just goes to show either they are showing that she's shaky, or it's like a flaw in the writing. And the people that
Mm.
who write this show have said that they are comedy writers, and then they found
Yeah.
out they had a room full of comedy writers, and they found out that no one in the room knew how to write legal procedurals. um
Mm.
and she's a lawyer, and I feel like that's kind of important.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they get a season 2, and the cases were very creative, like they pulled from like way deep in like Marvel comic lore to pull out these characters to make very interesting cases. All the cases that they set up and the scenarios that they set up were interesting,
Hmm.
but some of the legal arguments in the courtroom could have been a little bit more dynamic. And
Yeah.
they should probably bring in some people who actually write on law shows to help with
Mm.
that in the next season.
Yeah. I think that I would push back just a little bit, because I think that the one with Megan Thee Stallion was pretty good. I think that that was a very good kind of argument. Yes, definitely not as kind of powerful as, say, the beginning one, but I think that, yeah, you're right, Nathan, is that she's trying to find herself. Maybe that she's going through certain things. Maybe it is the writing. I don't know, but there was definitely some good kind of legalese, I would say, or legal arguments that she made in
Mm-hmm.
that one, and then also the one with her dates coming in, with the Titania one, you
Yeah.
know, uh, that was pretty creative. I would say that maybe it's fancy lawyer tricks. I don't know, but I mean those two cases, I think definitely showed some good stuff. But yeah,
Sure.
it's
I mean,
definitely not
like
like a
I
Law and
feel like
Order
I
type
feel
of
like the
dress up. No.
Titanium one wasn't her doing. It was a Mallory won that one. She definitely
Got
won
it.
the one against Megan Thee Stallion, but the other one that she lost was the one with the magician. And I
Mm,
feel like there could have been all kinds of arguments for like shutting this guy down. that she didn't prepare for. She didn't think about. Like that guy should have been able to leave the courtroom. Like if they wanted him to leave the courtroom, they should have had her still argue well enough that okay, she put in a good effort. But like it seemed like they lost because she wasn't prepared. like like this guy could literally rip a hole in reality and like and open up a hell dimension. I feel like that should have been part of her conversation or her argument, and she didn't do that. So it's like being unprepared for this case. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think that she's terrible. I think that people say online that say that she's terrible. I think that she's a good lawyer, but she's not a great lawyer. And it could be, like I said, she's maybe distracted by all the She-Hulk stuff.
Yeah. And I think that also, Matt kind of waxed the floor a little bit because Matt has been doing this for a while too. And I think that in his situation, kind of like that dual identity. Whereas I think that for Jen, this has just been thrusted upon her without kind of this shock has been like, oh, a big adjustment for her.
Yeah.
So that's probably why you can see that type of dynamic. And so we find out that Luke won, and then Jen is totally embarrassed by the situation because her client did not tell her everything.
Yeah.
And then we then cut to the bar, and then we find out that Matt kind of becomes more of a befriending Jen. And I think that there was one quote that I really hooked onto, and why Matt is such a great character. And he said something about like, you say that, but I think that you're in a unique position to do some real good. And then the way I see it, Jen Walters can use the law when society fails, and She-Hulk can help people when the law fails. So it's like, I'm like, damn, that's like really good stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
and that's just coming from experience. That's just coming from him being such a good, kind-hearted individual, fighting for the little people, and we saw that in the Netflix series where there were several times where he was just fighting for the people that are disadvantaged or the underprivileged or the vulnerable, and it's just a great kind of dynamic. And I think that people just want to follow that narrative about like, oh my gosh, you kind of ruined Daredevil. I'm like, but that type of stuff wasn't in the show. I mean, in the original Netflix show, and it was like, that's the spirit of Matt Murdock is still there, even though it's kind of like, yes, become a little bit more humorous, a little bit more of a punchline, sure. But
I mean, he's not a punchline though. He's just more. He's just more a little bit. He's a little bit more at ease with himself. So you could either think of him as a reboot, or you could think of him as where he was at the end of season 3. And where he was at the end of season 3 was feeling like a weight had lifted off of him, and he was a little bit lighter. Yeah, this episode was written by Cody Ziglar. It was one of the few episodes this season that was written by a guy. It's a black guy.
Yep.
And I think they probably brought him in to get that male voice for Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a really great job with Matt and also with Jen.
I'd say so. Yeah. Definitely. And I think that I think that's definitely that interaction. We were just like, audience members are just like, come on, let's just come on, let's just there's chemistry, there is sparks, please let this happen. And it's like you just knew, even when he's like, who is this, even when she's like, who's this guy, when this guy came in, it's like so arrogant and whatever. It's like, no, he played it off as though he's not that, he's not that at all. He's definitely a very smart lawyer who knows his stuff, and again, like you said, much more at ease than he was when he was in the Netflix show. So we didn't get a call from Todd, one of her dates. Basically creeping her out at the restaurant. And we'll find out what Todd's other intentions are later on.
I mean, you get a sense of what his intentions are, even in this episode and also in previous episodes. He's buying a Wakandan spear rather, and he He's lying. He's lying about studying abroad there. I doubt he studied abroad in Wakanda, given that they are a very secretive society that only opened up very recently.
Yeah.
And unless he looks a lot older than he is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's basically signaling his status. He's trying to signal his status, and he thinks that this is actually something that is attractive to women. I guess
Yeah.
that's why
I
he.
guess. Yeah. I
Um,
guess.
I'm not sure. I gotta imagine that it is attractive to some women, but not necessarily the women
Yeah.
that you would want to be with,
Well,
or would it
he's not
be
lacking
in a healthy
confidence.
relationship with.
Yeah, he's not lacking confidence though. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Um,
Lots of confidence.
I don't understand what his plan here is. Like, oh yeah, he does make a move on her. Um,
Yeah, she does.
and
So
like,
it's
and he
like a
could have,
creep out.
and she could have like crushed him, and she just like leaves.
Hmm.
But yeah, she could have physically hurt him, and she decides not to.
Right.
So
Right.
that's you're right. He's not lacking confidence because I feel like that was like nearly a suicidal thing to do. like, like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
yeah. She could have easily killed him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Then we
Then
get
she
this scene. I think this is like Leapfrog,
yeah.
asking her for help. Yeah.
Right. So Jen leaves the bar right after Matt leaves the bar because Matt gets a phone call and we find out this is
Right.
what Matt was doing. He got a phone call
Hmm.
from Luke Jacobson that he was being kidnapped by her client.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
their fight was really good. It was really well done. I think the
Hmm.
CGI in this episode was really great. The CGI in this episode and in the ninth episode was really great. It was obvious that they did that a long time ago. There's a scene in the finale. Even though the finale goes twists and turns, there's a scene in the finale that was in the earliest trailers. So it's obvious that
Yes,
they
it
meant it was
was.
obvious that they meant to put that twist in from the beginning. So
Hmm.
they had the longest time to work on the CGI for that, the final episode, and also for this episode with Daredevil, and it looks really good.
Correct. Yeah.
Her how not just how she moves, but also like how Matt moves because in the Netflix show they had lot smaller budget, so they just did it all practically.
Hmm.
But you know, Matt has preternatural um, abilities, preternatural. What am I thinking of? Not anaerobic, acrobatic,
Yeah.
preternatural acrobatic abilities similar to Spider-Man. Not, I mean, he probably can't jump or leap as high as Spider-Man. He definitely can't lift as much, but he does have above like a gymnast level abilities.
And he also has echolocation.
Yes, echolocation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what Jens calls it. But yes.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
He's like, yeah, echolocation.
Yep.
So like, uh, so this is actually after the fight, after they take him down and they have the conversation
Hmm.
there, and they joke about who helped who in this, but
Yeah.
the fight inside was also fun. Um, we get a hallway fight, and we think we're gonna get another hallway fight, and then she comes through and just
Oh.
smashes
Yeah.
everyone.
I was like,
Some
come
people
on, hallway fight. It's like, no, they did not
no.
do it. I was like, oh.
Again, whose show is this?
Yeah, I know,
At
right?
the very beginning of the episode, she was like, "Last time on my show," it's just like telling the people like, "We have characters show up, but it's my show." Um,
Yeah.
so so yeah, they have this conversation. He says that maybe he'll look her up the next time she comes in. He comes into town. She's like, oh, or we can, and then
Or
and
yeah, or we can just have at it right now. And
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
what's the delay? And I think that you see the kind of sheepishness of Matt, which is kind of
yeah,
endearing as well. It's like,
yeah,
nah, I really don't want to do anything. Like, I want to, you know, it's like you can be a decent guy like that. Like,
yeah,
there's no reason you cannot like any guy cannot emulate that type of aw shucks, sheepishness, that type of thing. There's no, you can still be
I
endearing and
mean,
charming like
I don't,
that.
I don't, I don't think he's sheepish to a certain extent. He's definitely up
Yeah,
for whatever, but he doesn't expect anything.
exactly.
Like he let her lead there, which is fine. I mean, like,
Hmm.
yeah, he was no reason to be overly thirsty. He's a handsome dude who,
Of
if
course.
you watch the Daredevil show, a lots of women
Oh yeah.
are interested in him. So there's no reason for him to be be thirsty. So
Oh, definitely.
he played it the right way.
Yep.
So yeah, they they sleep together, and then they have a hilarious scene of him
The walk of
leaving
shame.
walking shame in the middle of the day with that suit on.
Yeah.
And then they had this tag because she's like, the episode should be over, but it's not. Uh,
It's like
yeah,
happy ending. It's already a happy ending. End of the
yes,
episode. End scene. Nope.
yeah, yeah. So she goes to the gala, and then she gets a condescending award. For the name of the award itself is condescending, female lawyer as opposed to lawyer.
Hmm.
Um, and then they give it to everyone basically as like a participation trophy.
Hmm.
But Jen, like I think Mallory says the thing that you expect about the situation, that it's ridiculous and being called a female lawyer. But like Jen has had rough couple months, right? And
Hmm.
she's just there. Her parents are there. You don't get awards in public very often in life. If you're lucky enough to
Right.
get awards, I'm not talking about like graduation. Graduation is
Hmm.
one thing that your parents might show up to. But if you're lucky enough to get an award, your parents are there. She started to thank her parents, and then they they put all this stuff. They put all her information on the screen, and then they basically use revenge porn against her. And then
Yep.
that's when she got mad, because she's like, she the way that they shot it, and I forget who directed this episode. Um,
Let's see.
I
I
think
think it
It was Kat
was.
Kai
Yep.
Chao. Yeah. So the way that it
Yep.
shot it, when she got angry, is when she looked back at her parents, looking at what was happening, and it was very embarrassing to her. Yeah, anyone would be that angry.
Right.
So she had a perfectly reasonable
Yep.
reasonable
Reaction.
reaction to what happened. But
Hmm.
yeah, she's not allowed to have a reasonable reaction to what happened.
Yeah.
Partly because she's a woman, but partly because she is a Hulk as well. So yeah,
Right.
and that
Which actually Mallory explains in the next episode at the beginning of episode 9. Actually, she
yeah
explains that to her.
yeah yeah and yeah, right here is what you're talking about, the
Yep.
beginning of episode
Exactly.
9. Yeah. So yeah, she is justifiably upset, but what everyone saw was a rage monster. Harkening back to the first episode where Bruce warned her, once people see you as a out of control rage monster, no one will you can't there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. So
Hmm. Right.
um and even I feel like I thought this was going to be Mallory's heel turn, because like Mallory says to her before she does it not to do it, um like try to comport herself, and she doesn't do it. I wonder if they're gonna go into the fact that like she has the privilege of doing that because she's a Hulk, but also even before she was a Hulk, she was a white woman, and like Mallory is not a
Right.
white woman, so like she would have to, like she couldn't blow up like that in public in the next season. We'll see how
Hmm.
Mallory actually feels about her, because like in the comics, she's a little bit of an antagonist. They didn't go that route in the show, and there's no reason to like put women against each other unless there's like a reason. And I can see her being on Jen's side and then eventually just being like annoyed with her because she um is acting out in public in a way that Mallory never would, because she's a black woman.
Mm.
um
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that 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 might be interesting in the second season.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I could definitely see that there's some tension between her and between the two, and I think that yeah, it could be like the way that Stephen Strange and Baron Mordo, Carl Mordo, like that relationship is kind of
yeah,
like you
yeah,
can feel that there was tension there, but then it kind of like breaks.
yeah, yeah,
So it's kind of like that, I would say.
yeah.
Uh, but but before the scene, we also saw the
Oh yes,
1970
before this scene,
dedication.
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
we saw the
like
thing that
like
showed
the
up in the trailers. They
correct.
in a dream sequence, she basically thought of herself as the Savage Hulk from the 70s show,
Yeah, the
the
70
incredible
show.
the
Yeah.
Incredible
I
Hulk.
thought that was really cool, like how they showed She-Hulk in that way. It was just like,
I
wow,
looked
it's
at
really
I looked at
unexpected.
the credits later on in in the episode, and I thought it was just another actor or actress, but she's not credited. So I don't know. Maybe it is CGI that they made to look like another actor, but it looked like a real person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There, like it's possible that it was CGI and it looked real because they put some compositing on the film to make it look like it was the 70s, and because it looked old, even though it was CGI, it looked more real.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas without that, like that compositing, that film compositing, it would have looked fake. But I thought it was a person. But
Mm-hmm.
they didn't credit anyone in the credits for that performance. But yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I thought it was a real person. It was kind of like Lou Ferrigno,
yeah, I thought it was a bodybuilder,
type
like a
of
female.
yeah,
I thought it was just a female
yep,
bodybuilder.
exactly. That's
But
what I thought too.
yeah, I think we should probably look that up at some point because I mean that does bug me a little bit.
Mm,
But yeah, that was a cool sequence. That was a real cool sequence. They basically did shot by shot to shot the opening for the Incredible Hulk. They just used her instead, and also they had Bruce in that as well.
yep,
Um,
they did.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this is where Jen is trying to track down the intelligentsia and who owns it and
Hmm.
things like that. This is also where Nikki gets the video from her mom of Jen dancing in law school that
Yeah.
Nikki uses later on to get to the location of the intelligentsia. But yeah,
Right.
she ends up leaving the house to like hang out with Emil, which makes sense. Like
Hmm.
Emil is the only other person that she knows besides Bruce who's been through this.
Right.
And he's been in a very specific situation of like being inhibited like she is. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah,
I found it interesting about the law school thing. I really found it interesting that she goes back to because she got fired from her job and
she
things
got
like
fired from the
that.
job. She
Yeah.
lost her apartment because she doesn't have an income. So it's basically like
Yeah.
earlier in the season, but she didn't get
Right.
a job like she did earlier on in the season.
Right.
So
Right.
she's at rock bottom again. So yeah,
And then we see her childhood bedroom, and it's like Legally Blonde and Aaron Brockovich movie posters. So it's like it seems as though she got inspired by those
movies. Yeah,
by those two movies, and you kind of see where it was going in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, this is why she became a lawyer.
hmm
And if those people that are not familiar with those two movies, I mean, I think Legally Blonde was like about is with Reese Witherspoon, and was like how she was rejected by a guy who was going to Harvard Law, and then she
yeah,
went to Harvard Law and
yeah,
became a standout lawyer. And then Aaron Brockovich is a real life story about a person who sued the water company in California. Yeah, and it was like just like this again fighting for the little people and fighting for the most vulnerable people, and she was the kind of like the force behind that type of lawsuit. So yeah, you can see the inspirations that she had. It was kind of interesting to kind of see
yeah.
that.
Renee
Uh,
Zellweger, Reese Witherspoon is like brilliant, and that movie Legally Blonde was a lot deeper and subtly subversive than a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. Some people give it credit for because it was not just about um, about her going to Harvard Law, but her going to Harvard Law and also maintaining all the things that people
mhm.
make fun of her for, the things
Right.
that people um that people in society also think as trivial and make
Hmm.
and attached to being an airhead or being stupid, and those
Right.
things happen to be also female things. Like I was listening to a podcast several years ago, and I heard a woman actually make a really good point. When guys are really into cars or comic books or other
Hmm.
kinds of nerdy things, they're called nerds. But if like women are really into like makeup or fashion, they're called frivolous. But like you can be really nerdy about those things too. And
Of course.
it's just a gendered it's just a gendered thing
Yeah.
that those are called some one of those things are called frivolous and one of those things are called nerdy. So that I
Hmm.
think that was one of the points in that of that movie.
Hmm.
So just because she was into those things didn't mean that she wasn't smart, and she was smart. So yeah, I could
Hmm.
I
Absolutely.
and that's sort of kind of some of the points that they're making in this show as well. Like people are like in the show, they know that they're going to call people are going to call her a slut, which they did at the end of the last the which we call it episode, because she has a healthy sex life.
Right.
But like, it doesn't mean that she's. First of all, she has should have agency over her own body. It also doesn't mean that
Yep.
she's an unworthy person or or whatever, because she has agency over her own body and she enjoys sex.
Hmm.
Those things have nothing to do with one another. It has nothing to do with whether or not she's a good lawyer. So yeah,
Okay.
I can see them trying to make some of the same arguments, but
Hmm.
more adult arguments in this show. So yeah,
Hmm. Yep.
so that she goes out to Emil's ranch, and she um, runs into the wrecking crew guy again. I forget what his name is.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he does.
yeah, and then
Oh.
and like I said, Nikki works with Pug to track down these guys, and they happen to be at the ranch as well. And then there's an interaction, and then things just go off the rails. Like she goes into the room. She sees Emil as Abomination, so he's been lying to her. But Emil doesn't seem to know what the heck this gathering is for. He just was paid for like a speaking fee,
Yep.
and he's saying
Yep.
just the most random, like innocuous, like
Yep.
motivational things.
Yep.
So yeah, he
Hulk
definitely should.
shows up.
He
Yeah.
definitely should be a little bit more choosy about who he takes money from. He probably should have
Yeah.
looked into these people a little bit more. Um,
Well, when you've been gone 17 years, you don't really know, I guess.
yeah,
Maybe.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Like I said, he still has some growing to do as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, then Todd makes this ridiculous speech. Oh, and all the gathering was also really interesting. It's just they must have spent a lot of time on the internet just reading, unfortunately, reading all this
Yeah.
crap that dudes say. You're like, I would say the same thing if it was a girl, if it was a guy. What's up with this? What's up with this lady Thor?
Yep.
And then Puck and then Nikki was like, go in there and infiltrate this organization, and remember to call women females. Uh, like here's the I feel like this is something that's pretty basic. There is already a word
Yeah.
for female humans. It's called woman. It's not hard. I don't understand why people. There's already a word for
Yeah.
female humans.
Yeah. I
Unless you're
know.
talking about a test subject, why are you calling women females? It always has grated on my brain when I hear it, and I'm not even a woman. Anyway, uh, anyway,
Yeah.
they're so yeah, this is they basically had put Reddit forum ridiculousness in the mouths of these guys, things that
Yeah.
real people have said on
Yes.
the internet, real incels, real or people who don't even think that they're incels, because I think that there are people that walk around calling women female who aren't incels, but they're just misogynist and they're toxic. Um, so and they come up with these ridiculous arguments about people not earning their spot.
Yeah.
So like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Exactly.
So yeah, he makes the speech about earning it. I don't know. I don't know how he thinks he earned it. He bought it, but I'm not sure he earned it. Um, and he turns into a Hulk, and then
Fragile men.
and
Yeah.
then and then Bruce shows up, and it's basically just a mess. And then like I said, then they do a thing that you don't expect them to do, like that doesn't comes out of nowhere. She breaks the fourth wall, goes to Marvel Studios, and complains to the writing staff, which is what. So like when she goes to Marvel Studio, that's when the QR code shows up. And when she goes through the door, there's a QR code. There's a QR code on that door.
Mm.
And if you read that comic book, she's basically doing the same thing in that whole comic. She's complaining about the new. So like, the old writer is leaving the comic, and she thinks that we should just cancel the comic. So there's all these writing submissions from other writers, and some of them are like really prominent writers of the day. Like Frank Miller does like gives her a pitch, and it basically looks like the Dark Knight the Dark Knight Returns. His drawing, his way of writing, and the whole thing is them going through all these writers. It's funny. It's a good episode. It's a good issue. And this is not the first time she's done that. She talks to the writers a lot, but they decided to choose this one for
Yeah, I
for the
just found
comic.
it very innovative that she kind of broke the fourth wall by going through Disney Plus.
Yeah, she goes to the Disney Plus thing.
Going through the Disney Plus menu options.
Yeah,
I
and you can
find that really fantastic.
also a clue that they did this last year, that they shot this and they thought about this last year, is that when
Yeah,
she jumps through there,
yeah,
she when she goes to the making of or Disney Assembled is how she gets to the
yeah.
lot. It's Shang-Chi. Now that is not the most recent one. We've had
Right.
several Disney Assembled ones since then.
Yeah,
Since Shang-Chi, we had Eternals, and then we had Hawkeye, and then we had Moon Knight and Miss
yeah.
Marvel. So we've had several Multiverse of Madness, Thor. We've had several Disney Assembled. So that's how long ago they decided to do this. They knew that they were going to do
Yeah,
this last year. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, and
Definitely,
it was always the
definitely
plan.
some insight right there.
Yeah, it was always the
Yeah,
plan. So yeah, you see
yeah.
her jump, and
I
you see,
I was shocked that they just did Marvel stuff there, and it's like not the other Disney properties. That would have been very cool if they just showed the other ones, like on the
um,
Disney Plus menu. You know,
I
but
don't
they
know.
didn't. I think they just showed the Marvel stuff.
I think they were inside the Marvel menu. Like there was
Yeah,
like a
they were.
Marvel. If you click inside of Disney Plus, there's a Marvel menu. I think that's where they
Right.
were. That's where
Yeah,
they
that's
were.
where they were. Yep. Correct.
So yeah, it was funny. It was a funny, but the thing is that the thing is that while they probably shot this last year, they made some edits recently, because
Mm,
when she jumps out and then jumps into the Marvel assembled thing, they probably did that last year, but they did change some of the tiles, because I Am Groot is right next to her tile, uh,
yes. Yes, you're right.
which came out during the summer.
Hmm.
Unless they just had it scheduled that they knew that it was going to come out during the summer at the same time,
Right.
then they did that. But yeah, like I said, there was a shot where she actually jumps into the lot. That was basically the first shot that you saw in the trailers like last year. So they
Mm,
it was always the plan to do this. Um, yeah, the conversation that she has with the writers, and everyone in that room except for the people that are talking to her are writers, and then the writers the writers in that room actually hired two actors to act like writers. So the white guy and the Asian woman actually aren't writers on the show, but everyone else in the room were actual writers in the show.
as
You
in the
actually see
show.
you actually see Cody, the black guy,
Hmm. Yep.
next to the door,
Yeah.
and Kat Kat Chow,
Yep.
the or Jessica Gao, right?
Director.
Jessica
Yeah.
Gao, the
Yep.
the showrunner is in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Right.
don't know all the Easter eggs on that in that room. I'm sure someone has gone through all that stuff, but there's all kinds of things on the wall. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
she then she has her whole then she goes to speak to Kevin, um, and then Kevin is this robot. She has to sign an NDA. She goes down. She has a
Yep.
hallway. She has a hallway fight, which is very similar to Matt's hallway fight, or very similar to. I've seen it compared to Matt's hallway fight. Also seen it compared to Black Widow's hallway
Black Widow's
fight.
fight. Iron Man. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Also, Thor's hallway fight in the first movie as well. He
Yes.
fights a bunch of dudes. So she got her Marvel hallway fight
Mm-hmm.
to get to Kevin, who is this robot who's just surrounded by screens and comic book racks. He's just reading
Pretty
comic
much.
books, and he comes up with ideas
Yeah.
and formulas. Yeah, and then she gives her closing
She
arguments.
she yeah she gets her closing argument, which I found very interesting. Kind of like the state of the MCU.
Yeah,
About the daddy issues. That which was really funny. I found it extremely funny. I found it really really awesome. I found the fact that she mentioned the X-Men was really awesome
yeah.
too. So it's like, wow, she really, you know, I, you know, I don't know if Tatiana Maslany is definitely. I mean, she plays it off as though she's a fan, but it would have been very interesting if Iman Vellani did that. But we know that it may happen in the future, but it'd be very interesting to see Iman kind of like doing that, actually talking to Kevin in the future.
I don't know. Like I don't think Kevin. I don't think. I don't know. Like they would have to write her very differently than they do in the comics, because in the comics she's not. The only people who actually break the fourth wall and know that that their characters are She-Hulk and Daredevil, not Daredevil, Deadpool,
Deadpool, yeah.
in the comics. So I don't think they're going to do that with her character. I think they want her to be earnest. And you know what? I was actually watching a interview with Iman Vellani, and the rest of the people who will be in the Marvels.
Oh, was it on Entertainment Weekly? Was it like
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
Livia
and they
Coleman
make a
or
really
yeah?
good point that Monica Rambeau, the woman who's playing Monica Rambeau,
Mm.
she used to look at Carol the way that Miss Marvel does. So she's been
Correct.
disillusioned. She's been disillusioned. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Yes.
Like Miss Marvel looks at like Carol as a like the savior who can do no wrong, and when she was I don't know what was it called, what did she call her, Sergeant Trouble, when she was a little kid,
Yeah.
she looked at Carol like that, and then Carol just left for like decades. So she probably has some words for Carol now, and she probably also has some sobering words for Miss Marvel as well about looking up
Right.
to Carol. So I think
Right.
that movie could be really interesting,
Mm.
but I think they'll probably keep her in the Marvel universe, like unaware that she's unaware that she's a character.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, the conversation with him is really interesting. He takes out the whole blood plot. So all the speculation that we're doing about the blood plot, we just take that out. So like, and she makes a really good point. So like all the blood stuff didn't happen. Basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
she took that out, and she makes a good point. Like this is basically just a soldier thing, and they did that in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier already. So like, there's no reason to do that beat again. Um, and the episodes 7 and 8, 6, 7 and 8 really was about Jen's journey. So
Right.
there was no reason to have a giant fight. She makes a good argument.
Yep.
It's a fun argument for her
Hmm.
it's fun for the way that they did it. Even making jokes about the CGI. Um,
And
but
also the fact that
again, they should probably also pay the CGI people more money as well. So hopefully
right.
they're making jokes and also like paying people as well, because that stuff isn't
Correct.
easy. Jokes about it'll cost more and it'll take a lot more time if you transform
Yeah.
off screen as opposed to transforming on screen, because then we have to do all the animation for you transforming. But yeah, that's a nice little joke as long as they actually give them more time, and maybe they are, because they did announce this week that they are pushing
They
a bunch of
delayed some of the
pushing
movies
a
out,
bunch
yeah.
of projects. Yeah, so maybe they won't be as crunched as they would have been otherwise. So we'll see.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also the fact that she mentioned about I need Matt back.
Yeah,
I
and
need him back.
Kevin just
Woman in
drops it,
needs.
and Kevin just drops him into the scene like a video game character.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was funny. It was funny. It's like Matt can't see. Like he can really only operate in cities that have like metro,
Yeah.
New York. So there's no way for him to get out to the middle of LA like that. So he had to be dropped in there like a Sims character. Because how else would he have gotten there in his Daredevil costume? Like she was driving him around,
Yeah.
and before she was driving him around, he was on the hood of the Leapfrog's car. So anyway, it was funny. It was funny. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see whether or not they remain together. Because I mean, he said he was only going to be there a week, and he's going to be in the Echo show, and he is also going to be in the. He's also going to have his own show with 19 episodes.
Yep.
So we'll see if she shows up again. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that she will. Yeah, but it will be kind of like another cameo type of thing. I think that they kind of try to say, oh well, this might be a start of some type of relationship, but we don't know. I mean, it might be off screen where they have a falling out, or
they don't even have to really have the falling out.
And Luke Cage, in the Netflix series, so.
Yeah, they don't even really have to have a falling out. They could just not be that serious. It could be just like a friends with benefits situation. They're both adults. They can do that.
Sure.
They may just like each other, but not necessarily want to settle down with each other, which is an adult, which is an adult choice that they can make. Right. So yeah, and then we end the episode with. That's not where we end the episode, but we see Bruce comes back from Sakaar with his son Scar, and that was the thing that she was trying to get Kevin not to talk about, and I guess he technically didn't give the backstory about it, but he did. But Scar did show up, so I guess we'll see what Scar's thing is about whenever we see Scar again.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the comics, you can look up his backstory, which I don't think they're going to do, but like they're giving everyone kids, or young apprentices, like in the case of Hawkeye.
Yep.
So Young Justice at some point is going to happen. As a lot of people are speculating. A lot of people speculated that Thunderbolts were going to happen, and it's happening. And I guess Young Justice is also going to happen.
You mean Young Avengers?
Right? Not Young Avengers is what I meant to say. Young Avengers, not Young Justice would be DC. Right. I think that's pretty much it. That we get this last scene with her, walking up the steps, her fully integrated, and saying that she'll come after people as a lawyer or as She-Hulk if she needs to. And then this guy asked her what she's wearing. Now, there was a whole episode about her wanting to get clothes. So I understand why they make this joke, but like, he's also a very exclusive person, so she wouldn't necessarily say who she's wearing either, like, because she's wearing superhero super attire. So yeah, but it's also a question that a guy wouldn't he wouldn't have asked the guy, which is why she rolls her eyes and goes inside. Yeah, and then we have the last scene with Wong busting out.
So, one last question about that scene. Do you think so? That scene is separate from the scenes that we had in Shang-Chi, right? Or is that kind of like afterwards or during, or
you don't remember episode? You don't remember episode 2? Episode 2 of this season was the scenes from Shang-Chi. You saw that, and then Wong showed up and said, "Yeah." So, but in that episode, he did say that he would give him sanctuary. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Wong.
Mm.
Like it was a pretty thin excuse to break him out in the first place. And then he broke him out again. He's breaking him out again. I guess he thinks that he's been in jail for long enough, and he's not the
Yeah.
guy he used to be. But like, I understand he's Sorcerer Supreme, but I feel like there's due process that he's jumping over. So
Maybe it's
well,
some type of emergency. We'll find out. I mean, we'll,
I
we'll find
guess I
out.
guess so. We'll
All
see.
is up
A
to
lot of
him.
people are hoping that he shows up in the Thunderbolts. We'll see if he actually does.
Oh, you
Yeah,
mean Abomination?
Abomination. Yeah, yeah.
I think he is in the Thunderbolts in that picture.
No,
I think
He's not
wasn't
in
he
the
in there?
lineup. He's not in the lineup that a Marvel
Okay.
debuted at D23. But
Okay.
people are hoping that he will be. Like they'll add him. And now that he's out in the wild and he can turn into the Abomination again, not legally, but
Right.
if he's in Carmitage, I'm not sure that the American government are going to go and get him. Maybe Carmitage doesn't have extradition to the U.S. So yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, it was a good season. I don't know where I would rank it. Like I said, we'll probably do another video with the group, a few of the group members. Talking about the MCU TV shows, but I think this is probably one of the better ones because, like I said, rewatchability, and it was fun. It was fun. It didn't take itself seriously, and where it did take itself seriously was specifically Jen's plot, and it
Hmm.
stuck the landing on Jen's plot, like her making peace with the two parts of herself. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we think about with She-Hulk. Any last thoughts that you have regarding She-Hulk? Anything
No,
else?
that's
Okay.
pretty much it.
All right. Well, if you enjoy this conversation, we would actually like to hear from you. So comment down below, like and subscribe if you want more content like this, and we will see you next time.
All right, guys. Bye.